Hello everyone, and welcome to my spoiler review of Talk to Me. Spoiler warning for Talk to Me. So basically, if you haven't seen Talk to Me, I would absolutely recommend that you go and watch it. It's really fucking good. But today I want to talk spoilers, because there were some things that didn't really work for me on the first viewing, and I went and saw it a few days after I saw it for the first time, and on rewatch, it was just like, it all clicked. And I'm so excited to be talking about this film in spoiler depth, like in spoilers. I'm talking spoilers. So if you haven't seen Talk to Me, click off this video now, go check it out and come back. And I'd also like to say I'm very sorry for the long wait. I've been quite busy recently, so that's why I've been just ambling my way around to getting to this spoiler review of Talk to Me. So that's why that is. Anyway, let's just jump into it. So first of all, what I'm going to say is I'm not going to go through a structured thing. I'm not going to say the directors, the cast, plot summary or synopsis or whatever you want to call it and stuff like that. I'm just going to get talking about it. So the first thing that I noticed on rewatch, which I probably should have noticed first time around, was that the hand, the embalmed hand, actually just connects you to the dead. The way it was framed and the way I kind of assumed it, especially with the opening scene with Duckett killing himself, I assumed that anyone who used the hand would connect to an evil spirit. That's just what I thought. I thought, this is a scary movie. The first person we see who we can assume has used the hand fucking brutally killed himself. And yeah, that's what I assumed. That they were all evil. So that gives kind of like a reason as to why the hand, specifically, they wanted Riley. The spirit that Mia contacted was talking through Mia, warning Riley, saying, "Run, run, run," because the evil ones wanted to break through and take over Riley's body. That's one thing I wasn't quite sure of. I was like, why are these evil ones actually taking over? Why do they want to take over Riley's body? And we'll get into that a little bit later, but I think it's just worth noting that a lot of the spirits that they connect to are just average dead people, even if some of them are a bit disfigured from, being in the grave or if they died a pretty gruesome death. But the evil ones are the ones that Riley ends up contacting and is what drives the plot forward, pardon me. There's a very quick line of dialogue in this film, I think it's when they're talking to Cole on the bus, that says that the spirits can actually accurately mimic other spirits. They can use information from the people who are living and who they're connected to through the hand, and they can mimic the people around them. For example, that's why one of the evil spirits was able to mimic Mia's mother, because Mia was constantly thinking about her mum, and she could read her thoughts. That's what I've forgotten his name. Daniel. That's what he said. Daniel said something along the lines of, maybe they can read us or something like that. He said that, and I'm thinking, yeah, well, they probably can. That'd explain how the evil spirit that was pretending to be Mia's mother knew how to call Mia me instead, because it was her anniversary. She was been thinking about her all day. The spirits can read the thoughts and stuff like that. And not only can they mimic the dead, like the people that they're connected to is closest to people. That made absolutely no sense, but whatever. Let me try to rephrase that. Not only can they mimic the dead spirits, specifically the people that the ones that they're connected to with the hand are closest to. I think that made more sense. Whatever, you know what I mean, maybe. Not only can they mimic the dead, they can also mimic the living, which is how they were able to mimic Max, which I found quite confusing at first. I was like, what's going on? So are these spirits actually full of shit or not? What exactly is happening? But then I rewatched it and I was like, okay, no, they're mimicking Max, trying to force Mia into killing her own dad. So when actual Max comes in, she fucking stabs him in the neck, which is what happens. Also, one of the things that I was like, in my earlier review, I was like, said something like, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. What I was referring to was exactly why the evil spirits were like mimicking and lying and stuff like that. It's like, what exactly do they have to gain? Why is this movie even happening? If they're just, fucking with Mia, why? What point have they got to do it? Then I realized what they were trying to do is that they were manipulating Mia into killing Riley while Riley still had the spirits inside him so that they could inhabit his body forever. This very, very nearly works when Mia takes him out in the wheelchair into the traffic jam. And the reason that they showed Mia this hellish underworld, which I want to stress right now, that hellish underworld that Mia gets shown doesn't actually exist. That was, again, just the evil spirits putting ideas into Mia's mind in, like, convincing her to kill Riley so that the evil spirits could inhabit Riley's body and be able to feel life again, basically. That part of it is left ambiguous, but I'm assuming it's so that they can feel the kind of idea of being alive again. Also, Mia actually did go over the time limit. This is something that I kind of picked up but kind of forgotten on. She went over the time limit the first time she was possessed, so that's why she kept being able to interact with all of the other spirits even when she wasn't using the hand. And that's how they were all able to keep interacting with her in order to keep them to kill Riley. Now, why exactly the evil spirits were so set on Riley, I'm not sure, but it doesn't really bother me. Riley, I'm assuming because he's younger, he's probably weaker, he's probably an easier vessel to possess, he's probably an easier vessel to control, and because he's weaker, he's probably easier to kill. So that's just my interpretation of that. As much as I was on the fence about it in my original review, I think the ending to this movie is absolutely brilliant. I was confused at first because I was like, okay, so if she's died and become a spirit, then why hasn't she possessed and fucked with these foreign people that she's connected to with a hand? But then I realised she's just one of the normal spirits that they contacted. She's not an evil spirit. She's just a spirit that was contacted by people who were using the embalmed hand. I think having her die at the end of the movie and being on the other side of the little ritual, I think it is brilliant. I didn't see it coming, and it all happens very fast, so you're kind of like, whoa, okay, that's kind of strange. But I do think that it's so cool. It's really cool. I think it's genius. I think the actual portrayal of the afterlife in this is just being like just an empty, black, dead limbo, whereas everything that you are familiar with just kind of blacks out, as everything kind of just blacks out around her, and then she's just stuck in the dead, like just basically purgatory, just that area, until someone contacts her, and that's her like last little bit of actually seeing life ever again in her, well, not in her life, in her death, I guess I should say. So there are a couple of themes as well that I mentioned in my original review that I didn't elaborate on because I wanted to just, let people go in with it. I think that the one theme that this film tackles brilliantly is that of guilt. Mia feels guilty about her mother's death. They don't say it out loud, but you can tell that she feels guilty. She feels as though she wasn't a good enough daughter, and she feels horrible about it. And that's why her dad hid the suicide note from her. Mia also feels extreme guilt for what she did, like letting Riley use the embalmed hand. And the whole rest of the movie is her trying to redeem herself from that guilt and right her past wrongs. But with the spirits misguiding her, because she went over the time limit and got stuck with some bad bitches, she's just doomed to all hell. She's never going to be able to redeem herself, and I think that that is brilliantly done. That being said, the only way she does redeem herself slightly is by killing herself at the end. But the point is, that's only redeeming herself. Only she's going to know that. Everyone around her is just going to think that she's gone insane, which they say. At one stage, Jay's just like, Mum, Mia's dangerous. Get the fuck out of there. And I think it's a really tragic but brilliant character arc. And it left me thinking. It really did leave me thinking. And the other theme, the second theme that I found to be extremely interesting, but not necessarily not poorly executed, just not delved into as much as it could have. And that is the theme of addiction, which I think rings a lot throughout this film. But as I was saying in my other review, it's kind of, you got the film here, but the theme of addiction's kind of just like circling around it, trying to push its way in. It starts off touching the hand and connecting to the dead, ends up being like a way for these teens to get high, basically. And there's constant talk of weed throughout the movie, constant talk of ciggies and stuff like that. One character is just constantly dragging, and it's not necessarily overt, but it's definitely there. I just don't think the whole addiction side of things, like the addictive need to constantly grab the hand and to constantly maybe, you know, let's just try it one last time just so we can close the circuit properly. It's like, you know, just give me one last hit so I can, you know, just fix myself up properly. I can just say I'm starting from there. It's all there. It just never really comes back that much. I might be reading too much into it, but it's kind of strange that the only way for her to really free herself of her addiction with this hand is to kill herself. It's like, okay. I'm sure that wasn't their intention. I'm sure that's not what they were going for. Pardon me, but it just didn't. It didn't mesh back with the story. It didn't gel quite right for me. But it was still very interesting to see it explored. I just wish it had been done a little bit more of a concise way. Now, the next stuff that I'm going to be talking about is just some more kind of negative things. Not too negative, but somewhat negative. And that's the fact that, well, it's more just like the reception that it's gotten. People saying, one of the most original horror films in years. No, it's not. It's really not. I didn't mention the films, but listen to me. When you have a young child in a coma because he was meddling with supernatural things that he didn't think were harmful to him but actually were, and that they're actually trying to break into his body to use him as a vessel to reclaim life again, and no one's sure how he's going to get out of the coma, no one's entirely sure how he got in. You say those like that to me, I haven't planned that very well, but that's just everything that just happens. Tell me that that isn't the plot of Insidious. Tell me that he is not trapped in some evil underworld where he's being tortured by some demons that are trying to break into him. That's the further. Limbo in this movie is the further. There's barely any difference. I mean, it's got some differences in the way it's portrayed, but like, I was watching it and thinking, look, this is great. I still think Insidious is a little bit better. And I know it's not the movie's fault because originality is hard to come by these days, but when you're watching a movie and it reminds you of like another movie that's, in my opinion, better, it's like, oh, yeah, fuck. Also, The Hand, very Evil Dead-like. It reminds me of the Book of the Dead or the Necronomicon or whatever it's called. They're all kind of like, you know, teens fucking around with it. Some of them are like, oh no, you shouldn't do this shit, that's fucked. But the rest of them are like, oh, come on, it'll be fun. And then all hell breaks loose. And the last thing I want to talk about is that people are saying, oh my god, this is one of the scariest films of the year. Scariest film since Hereditary. I've seen that like 10 times. I don't find Talk to Me scary. Aside from the last 2 minutes when you see Mia get trapped in limbo and she's just stuck as a dead soul roaming purgatory, I find that terrifying. I find that really scary. The rest of the movie I don't find scary at all. I find it quite disturbing and brutal and unhinged. I don't find it actually scary. It's not the kind of thing that's going to make me like, you know, I'll come out of the theatre and be like, you know, I fear for my own safety. I was watching, I was on the drive home, I was like, oh, jeez, that was gross, that was gnarly. Ugh. But I wasn't like, you know, looking over my shoulder or anything. I wouldn't do that anyway, but just to give you an idea, I didn't find it scary. And yeah, that again is just the kind of like the hype around it. It's not very scary. It is extremely disturbing though. With all that being said, the negatives of this film are far outweighed by the positives. I really loved it. Everything was so good to rewatch. I think it worked brilliantly, and I feel comfortable in giving it a score right now. I'm going to give Talk to Me 4 stars. Guys, thanks so much for watching. Let me know what you thought of Talk to Me in the comments, and if you enjoyed it, then yeah, I'd love to discuss it with you, and look forward to more videos, whatever the hell I'm going to do later on in my life. Yeah, there'll be more movies coming out, so I'll probably talk about them, but I'll see you later. Bye.